Flynn Everett.
And you were chosen as the Perris Valley African American History Committee Black Hall of Fame honoree. And it's partly because I want you to tell your story. You know, I could just go on, but could you tell about the upbringing that you had to really got you to a point to be this outstanding educator and author and businesswoman?
Well, first off, Renisha Green Jordan, I want to say thank you so much for the honor. I am really humbled by it, and I'm not just saying that just to say it. When we do what our calling is, we don't do it for accolades. We do it because that's what we've been called to do. And so the idea that the community has chosen to recognize my work is just really special. Growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, really helped to shape who I am today. My family is from the South, and we grew up with a pick-pack grocery store down the street and a community full of grandmas, grandpas, aunties, and uncles that just loved the children. And so that's how I grew up in Tennessee. My grandmother had 6 kids, 3 girls, 3 boys. And my mother had me very young as a teenage mother, got married, and got divorced. Then came back from Chicago back to Memphis. And unfortunately, got very sick and was not able to take care of me. So for a while, my grandmother took care of me. And then my mother decided that she wanted her sister, who's my other mama, to take care of me. And so I moved to California. And I got a chance to learn about the power of speaking rivers into children's lives. And what that means is that when you're planted by the river, you can grow. When you know that you are surrounded by love, it gives you a sense of purpose, a sense of passion. It lets you know that you have unlimited potential because you have a village that is interested in your future.
And I do believe that that's the name of your book that you, or a poem, or can you explain that?
I wrote my first book a few years ago, and it was called Speak Rivers and Move Mountains. And it was rooted in the scripture of Psalms. Psalm says that in the face of love, the mountains will melt like wax and the rivers will clap their hands.
That's powerful.
And there was a song, an old spiritual, that I fell in love with growing up because I really had to process everything that was happening around me. And it said, Lord, you don't have to take away the mountain. Just give me the strength to climb. And so both of those things were my inspiration for that title. You know, we as Black folk, we as mothers, we as Black women, as community, there's always a mountain. There's always a challenge. And in James, it says the problems are surely going to come. They're inevitable. They're not going anywhere. So the prayer wasn't that God move the mountain. The prayer was, God, give me the strength to climb the mountain. Help me to have a faith that will melt this mountain like wax. And that's what that book is all about. From my childhood to things as being a mother and having one of my sons get very, very ill, it just became my central message in everything that I do.
Well, you talked about Memphis. Now let's about your upbringing and your education when you got to California. Where did you go?
When I was in California, I grew up in San Francisco, Portola and Bayview District area. Went to Edward Robertson Taylor Elementary School, and then middle school I went to Martin Luther King Academic Middle School. Very proud that I went to Martin Luther King Academic Middle School. It was a school that really upheld the values of King. It was a school that had some wonderful teachers there, and teachers who stood out to me. I still remember their names: Dr. Fuller, Miss Levine, Mr. Robinson, just to name a few. They were so influential in growing me up as a leader and as someone who could recognize the gifts that God had given me. Dr. Fuller helped me to think critically. She taught social studies. And she would always ask tough questions and allow us to think and be independent. She was such an inspiration. Mr. Robinson, my music teacher, I started playing piano when I was about 8 years old, and he would allow me to play music for the band, so I got a chance to express my leadership and be a part of theater. And Miss Levine was a teacher who knew a little bit about my story, the fact that I had been moved away from my mom to California and got a chance to know the family, and actually recommended me to be a part of a play, my first play ever, called The Colored Museum, actually. And it was my first paid show at the Colored Museum, and playing in the Colored Museum, and it was a great experience that really kind of turned the light on for me, putting the music in the theater and all those things that I love.
And so with that, how did you go to higher head? I mean, you could have went into theater. You could have, that community in San Francisco, I know in Oakland, it's a lot of prominent actors and things in that area, but what made you go into education?
Well, I think I've done both in some kind of creative way, that I still live the life of both an artist, a performer, a speaker, and an educator. You know, education is mixed to me with art and science. You know, art allows students as well as adults to develop an authentic voice, to create new things. And truly that's what we're asking our students to do in class, is to develop authentic voice in speaking and in writing, to see themselves in the books that they read, to explore history. All of it allows them to express themselves, and I think that's truly what art is all about. But I did sing when I was little, and I still do. My dad, who raised me, he played in a R&B band called The Whispers. And folk in our community know that, because the song is rock steady, steady rock. So I grew up with the Whispers around me and all of these wonderful people. Phyllis Hyman, you name it. I got a chance to see a lot of those people live and didn't realize how special it was that I got a chance to see those folks perform. So I got that bug, and he actually went to Berklee School of Music. That's where he got his degree.
Really?
And I started taking classical piano when I was 8, and he helped develop and invest in me, and he and I wrote a CD. We have a full CD called A Nice Day in Perris, and I did that with my dad when I was in college, 19. We did that together when I was 19 years old. But skipping back, in high school, I went to Lowell High School in San Francisco. It's one of the top high schools in California and in San Francisco Bay Area. And it was an 80% Asian school. So there wasn't a lot of black folks there, and it still isn't. And the reason why that's relevant is that I had a teacher there at that school, and I tell this story when I speak at high schools. I was in algebra class, and the teacher told me, I couldn't remember his name. I was so nervous. And he told me, he says, well, you ought to remember my name. I'm named after one of, your people. And I said, what do you mean by that? And so he said, Jackie Robinson. Don't you know who Jackie Robinson is? I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do with myself. But anyway, it was sort of one of these patronizing moments. And I tell this story to say I failed that class. I flunked algebra that year. And I was so nervous, and I didn't feel good about myself. I felt like I didn't belong at this top school. I had all of these kids who didn't look like me. I said all of them would have to be smarter than me. And I'm this chocolate girl. Maybe I don't really have any business here. And so things sunk for me. And then I went to I went to summer school that summer, and I got an A in the class. And I had to really focus and understand that I had reason to be at the table. That there was a place for me at the table. And there's a famous quote by someone who I can't remember their name now, but they said, you know what? If there's not a seat for you, bring your own chair. Bring your own chair to the table.
Well, I didn't hear it that way. Either you're part of the seat at the table, or you part of the menu.
There you go. That's the other good one, So, and not only did but I talked to all young people to say that, you know what, you belong. You are great. You are somebody. failure is part of the process. We're not
Yeah.
perfect. It's part of the learning process.
It's called resiliency.
And yes, people show their awards, and today, you know, you guys are honoring me, but the fact is that I failed to this place. There's a lot of failures that happen.
It's called resiliency.
And it's about not giving up. You know, born to a teenage mother, put on a plane at 7 by myself from Tennessee to California, coming here to a brand new scheme of different people, feeling like maybe I wasn't enough. So there's all of these things on the journey that you go through, and it builds character.
Well, what about the awards that you've gotten from Perris Elementary School? Because you're in Perris.
Yes, I'm in
and
Perris.
We're so grateful to have you. So talk about those kind of accomplishments that you've done at Perris Elementary.
Well, you know, here in Perris, one, I feel like it was just an appointment. I didn't grow up in Perris. I didn't grow up in Riverside. I went to college in Irvine, Concordia University. And then when I was at Lowell High School, I was on the speech team. And I, you know, really was able to get awards and do different things in speech. And here's the bridge and connection to Perris, is that I started off here as a teacher. I was in technology. I worked for a technology company before I went into teaching for a little bit over 8 years as a manager, field operations specialist, where I traveled all across the state, and I worked with different owners to help them facilitate building business in their companies, and we provided IT solutions for businesses. And I became a mother. And so I said, well, I always wanted to be a teacher. I need to go back and finish my 5th year, and that's what I did. I was slated here to student teach here in Perris, and the rest is history, and I've been here for 16 years. So with that being said, I started off in Palms as a teacher, teaching multiple grades, 4th, 6th grade, 1st grade. And then as a principal, I had my first principalship at Skyview Elementary School. It was a school that was under program improvement, under the No Child Left Behind, going through an AGB process. And while I was there as a team, we were able to work together and earn models of academic excellence.
From the state of California.
In addition to that, Gold Ribbon School. We earned multiple civic learning awards while we were there for not only building students in the academic area, but also teaching them to be outstanding citizens. For 5 years, we did an intervention program focused on English language learners, and Riverside County Office of Education also acknowledged our work with another Models of Excellence. We started a school garden with Perris City Initiative. We were one of the first schools there to start a school garden, and that garden is still there at the school. And it's just been a wonderful experience. It's been a plethora of different acknowledgments
for
programs.
Perris Elementary?
My second assignment as principal was at Perris Elementary School, and that assignment was a totally different environment. First year we were in federal program monitoring, so that was my first year there as principal. We were able to, as a team, get through that process successfully. We later rolled out the VAPA program in partnership with Riverside County Office of Ed and developed a model program through the COVID pandemic and was recognized for our efforts. And then within that same year, we were also recognized for the Civic Learning Award. This was part of California Department of Ed. And that year, we were the only school, not in Perris, but in Riverside County, that had earned the Civic Learning Award that year during the COVID pandemic. And I really celebrate the team that worked so hard, team of teachers and staff members who worked so hard to make that happen.
Wow. I really feel that your experiences working for that technology company really probably helped you do a good job of getting those accolades for the Perris Elementary School District. What do you think? Was that something that was useful?
My experience working in the business field was very helpful. I worked for one of the largest computer training companies. I worked for their corporate office, and I worked in the role as business development manager, and field operations specialist. And essentially what I would do was go around and travel to the different franchisees, do an assessment on their organization, and find ways to create a plan so that we could build business. Those same skills are skills that I took with me when I became a new principal. When I went into the school, I did what we call a SWOT analysis, where you looked at the strengths, the weaknesses, and opportunities and threats within an organization. You looked at the different team members that are there, and you began to work really as a servant leader, because it's all about building the people and building relationships, making sure that their gifts are being leveraged. So it was, first off, what is the purpose? You know, why are we doing this? The second piece of it is, what parts do people need to take? What's the picture of what it is that we're aiming for? And finally, just really being able to break it down to what is it that each department, each entity needs to do so that the vision can become a reality. Those same business skills are very, very helpful even when building a school. Mission, vision, values, goals.
And what about the reports? Because there's a lot of paperwork in education.
It's a lot of paperwork in education, a lot of reports. Being a business development manager and being on a level where you think about a franchisee owner or an executive really, you know, taking sometimes millions of dollars that they're investing in their franchise. It's important to be able to look at P&Ns and look at financial analyses and look at how it is you're using resources, and whether or not you're using them in a smart business way to get the most out of what you're doing. Schools are businesses also, you know, and the business is the kids. The outcome is, are we teaching them? Are we learning? Are we meeting that goal? I think sometimes we sort of get soft-minded, if you will, about education, where we feel like we don't have to meet goals, that we don't have to hit pillars of success. But I think there's a great marriage between understanding education and understanding it's about children, but also the importance of making incremental steps to meet goals. And I believe that that kind of leadership mindset is what allowed me as a new principal to really go into a school and in a 5-year period have multiple awards along with those teams and really re-energize the team so that teachers could really live up to their maximum potential for the kids.
So you're also a business owner?
Yes, I started a business. My family did about 2018 or so. Speak Rivers is the name of the company. You can find us at speakrivers.com. You can follow us at Speak Rivers on all of the social media handles. In the company, we write content. I've written several books and more are coming. Speak Rivers and Move Mountains, Passion Inside of Me, Just Be Me, Counting Fish in the Sea is coming.
Wow.
Speak Rivers and Grow Love is coming. So more to come. It's all about socially emotional learning, about practicing mindfulness. The goal is that I'd like to work with more colleges and more high schools and educational entities to work with both their staffs to energize and infuse their goals, as well as to be able to provide literature to them that really represents people of color.
Well, as I understand it, you are working on your doctorate degree. Can you elaborate on that?
I am back at my alma mater, Concordia University. I was just awarded by the university Alumni of the Year for 2022 for professional achievement. And I attended the school for my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and now I'm back there for my doctoral degree in leadership. And I've had the pleasure of working with them in their servant leadership program, which I'll be working with their high school program this summer. And I've had an opportunity to work with some of the things on their alumni board with their boutique to further the mission there at the school. And it's really a blessing because the organization is about using business as a mission. And that's what my goal is. It's not just about making money. It's about changing people's lives for the better. And the mission is more important than the business part of it.
The mission goes further.
It goes further. It's about making a difference, because when knowledge is welded to relevance, that's when we have power. And that's why it's so important for Black folk to be a part of education. It's so important for us to be a part of business, because when our faces are there, the information becomes relevant to our children. That means that they care about it. That engages them into the material. And so it's just not monotonous things that they're learning, but it's something that becomes a part of their heart that they can aim to do and maximize the potential in them. And that's why it's important that Black children see Black folk at schools, because we need to see it to believe it. We need to see it in order to do it. And so I am very, very committed to making sure that my face is a part of the mission of education, because the children are our future.
Yes, and it deals with empowerment as well, to empower.
Yes.
So how do you see you tie it all together? You got all these things that you do, so it must be a focal point where you're tying it all together.
You know, I think that's a good question. And right now I am really at a point in where truly I'm praying about what's next for me in my life. I know that the platform is huge, and I know that the reason why I'm at this point in my life is so that I can be used as a vessel to do something way bigger than me. And this interview, quite frankly, is a moment of transformation for me right now, because I understand that I have to be bold and courageous about what God has planted inside of me, that it isn't about title, but that the message that is inside of me is something that I hope that I get an opportunity to spread it throughout California and throughout the states, because transforming education is about empowerment. It's about inspiring. It's about allowing teacher leaders to leverage the skills that they have to do what they've been trained to do, to trust them so that they can inspire our kids to be their very best. And so I believe right now that we have to get out of the box of, you know, these really rigid systems that are not in alignment with making a difference in children's lives, going back and having real conversations about how to build programs that matter, how to reach to students of color and have cultural relevancy, and to have programs and people in places that can understand the experiences, because our students can do it. They can read, they can write, they are some of the smartest children you'd ever want to meet, but everybody needs their fire to be lit. And I want to be a person that lights their fire.
I agree. Now, what's your doctorate in?
It is,
because I think you're getting ready to finish this very soon.
It is in educational leadership. I am studying coherence. And coherence is simply allowing all systems from the county level, the district level, the school level to be in alignment with each other, to create a system that will really speak to the overall goals. So often what happens in education is that the schools are on an island, the district is on an island, the county's on an island, and our federal government's on an island. And none of these systems are speaking to each other, and the people who suffer are our children. So Michael Fullen, who is one of the main researchers in my doctoral study, talks about pedagogy. He talks about having focus, and he talks about deepening and learning. And he talks about the idea of that we have to have systems leadership. And all of our goals, when we think about the LCAP goals that we create on a district level, we have to think about how those goals speak to and what they look like actually at the schools, and how we're measuring them formatively to ensure that we're meeting those goals. And every stakeholder needs to be a part of that conversation and understand it in order to make it work. So my study is actually going to be looking at the first 5 years of my principalship. I'm looking at the AGB notes, and I am studying those things to look at the themes that have come out of those first 5 years to better
That's interesting.
understand why it is a school that was in program improvement over those 5 years was able to turn itself around and become a gold ribbon school. And so I'm looking at the themes from the AGB process, as well as the FPM process, looking at our single plan for student achievement and other documentation that would help to give some deeper knowledge as to how principals can be more successful in rolling out programs and plans for schools that would align to what California Department of Ed says that a model school would look like in all of its elements.
Well, we're going to have people here that do not know what AGB
Yes, this is true.
So can you go back and you know you got all these the educational jargon and all these acronyms.
So
can you go back and explain?
AGB is Alternative Governing Board, and a district gets the opportunity to decide how it is they're going to reform their practices for students when the academic achievements of students are not meeting state levels. And during No Child Left Behind, the district in which I was working for as principal was in the No Child Left Behind program improvement, and that's the system that was chosen for the reform. It was a really wonderful system, I believe, because it included board members, it included union members from the certificated side, it included parents, it also included county professionals and executive members. They came to a school, they interviewed teachers, they walked around classrooms, they also gave principals feedback. We reviewed data, we looked at progress, and most importantly, recommendations were given to how you could move the school forward. So when that process is successfully done, a principal can take that information and not use it as a weapon, but use it as a way to energize the organization so that they can have a sense of urgency to move the school forward, but most importantly, be able to use those tips and be able to work together as a professional learning community and implement those strategies. So when that's done well, teachers can really use that process, that cycle, as a way to improve and create best practices for teaching and learning.
Well, you did a very good job. Twice. Can you summarize that one more time so that the people that are listening to this interview will know exactly those two schools that you got state award?
I was principal at Skyview Elementary School in the Perris Elementary School District, and I was also principal at Perris Elementary School in the Perris Elementary School District. And I think this study is so relevant, Ms. Renisha, because all around after COVID, we are looking at deficits in learning with students. So just because No Child Left Behind isn't relevant anymore, we still keep going into these, hitting these bumps in the road, if you will, in education where we're losing ground. And so the reason why this study is so critical is it doesn't matter the reason, whether it's No Child Left Behind or if it's COVID or whatever the case may be, we still have students who are 2, 3, 4 years behind in reading. And we need to figure out ways where we can successfully implement systems in order to bridge that gap. But most importantly, give the people the skills at the schools that they need in order to make a real difference. And so often, people are figuring it out as they go. And what I learned as a principal is there's no books to go to that teach you this. And most of the time in programs, they don't teach you this. I was able to lean on a lot of my business information, but I'd like to be a part of creating curriculum and teaching and training principals and district folks, as well as going to DC and talk about what is it that we really need to do in Title I schools in order to make a difference.
So the advocacy piece as well.
Yes.
Well, like I said, I'm just totally overwhelmed. I've learned so much more. I knew a lot, but I greatly appreciate your time and effort and the things that you've done for the Perris Elementary School District. And for those that don't know, I was a board member and was elected in 1985. So an intricate part of somebody's life.
You were an intricate part of my life.
Yeah.
And I want to say this. I honor you. I honor everything you've done for the Perris community as well as Riverside County community. You have been an integral part of the Black community and a wonderful mentor. And I want to thank you for your boldness, your fire, your willingness to step out when you don't have to support people like me that's growing up in the field of education. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much. I really do.
I greatly appreciate it, but it's not about me.
Well, you know what? We have to honor our elders, and that's a part of our culture.
Yes.
And I honor you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yes.
And I can't believe I'm an elder now.
You're an elder that's super good. Look at that skin of yours.
I know, but when I started, I wasn't an elder. But anyway, well, thank you very much. Is there anything you would like to add in this interview? Because this is all about you and the accomplishments and the contribution that you've given to the Perris community, and it's greatly appreciated. So is there anything you would like to add?
You know, I will end a quote with Maya Angelou. And I know that both you and I love and appreciate the great Maya Angelou. Yes. She said that, you know, the definition of success is that you like yourself, you like what you do, and you like how you do it. That's what success is. And that's what we're here to teach children. You know, we talk about all these lofty things, but at the end of the day, it's about you loving you. You loving how you do it, how you live, how you move, and you loving what you do. That's education. It's not all the other stuff, because if you can't love yourself, there's nothing else. So that's the start of it. It's just being who you are, just being you, being authentic. And that's what I pray and wish for every child.
Well, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yay!